Why is it snowing? It was literally 70 degrees yesterday, and now this is happening. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be doing one of my all-time favorite things, and that is cutting up discontinued OEM parts. Specifically, I'm going to be showing you guys how to go and turn your factory fuel hanger into a pickup tube for your mechanical fuel setup. If you missed that video, definitely be sure to go back and check it out. I'll also be showing you guys how to go and make your own braided Teflon lines that are E85 compatible, so that way you don't have to worry about it chewing up the rubber or anything crazy like that. Now, before we go and jump into the fun stuff, let me give you guys kind of an overview and show you what all we're going to be doing today. All right, so pardon my kind of chicken scratch here. I was really just kind of counting fittings and all that stuff up here. This is basically what we're going to be doing today. After we go and finish up the fuel pump hanger, we're going to have a 12AN and an 8AN feed line. All right, this is actually going to be our pickup line because it's going to be vacuum, and then there's going to be a check valve in the system here too. It's going to come over here to our merge block. We got a 10AN line over to our pre-pump filter, followed by another 10AN line over to the pump, and then over here to the post filter. We're gonna have a Y split and have a dual 8AN feed to the rail where we got our 12 injector setup happening. Then we got a 6AN return over to the fuel pressure regulator, another 6AN to the flex fuel sensor, and then the final 6AN all the way back to the tank for the return. So for anybody that went through and counted here, this is actually 10 different lines that we're gonna run. I'm probably gonna go and show you guys how to make like this two and then maybe this one, and then I'll just go about making the rest of them by myself because honestly, you guys have better things to do than watch me struggle trying to get lines together. So yeah, I'll show you how to at least make the first two though, and the rest of them are gonna be pretty much the same. So this right here is gonna be our merge block. We got the 12AN here, 8AN here, and then obviously this is gonna be our 10AN outlet. So the merge block is gonna be mounted right up here. There are a couple of factory studs, like that guy right down there, that we're gonna go and attach to. And then this is actually gonna be right by the left rear wheel, just kind of up under here. I have no idea what was there originally. This right here is gonna be our pre-pump filter. This thing is actually gonna go and mount underneath the car and attach right here to the factory, basically where the factory fuel filter goes, and it's gonna run right in line like that. And then the post filter one, I'm honestly not entirely sure where I wanna go and mount it. This is gonna be our pressure line coming right out here. So I was kind of thinking about maybe mounting it like to the like one of these lower motor mounts or something like that, or like this one's obviously just like an unused bolt hole. So I could go and use that. I'm really not sure. If you guys have any suggestions on where I should put it, leave me a comment in the section below. And don't mind any of this stuff. If you know what this is or anything like that, don't spoil it for anybody else. That's the next video. Shh. All right, so if you come over here to your factory hanger, just kind of give you guys an overview of what all we're gonna be doing. First thing we're gonna do is pop this guy out. There's a couple of screws right here. This little plate goes and pops off, and then it goes and pops, I think, down, if I remember right, and in. This right here is our factory pressure line. This is our factory return. This is like the little vent thing that goes up toward the gas tank. So what we're gonna do is punch out the factory pressure line, which is this guy right here. You are gonna have to go and drill out a spot weld right here. And then we're also gonna drill out the factory return right here, okay? Once all that stuff's out, I actually went so far as to go and punch out these 4 spot welds right here too, because I'm gonna wind up needing to go and move this over ever so slightly, and it just makes it easier. So eventually, this is gonna be kind of what you're left with. Kind of a pro tip right here, after you get this separated, this right here is gonna be for your fuel level sender, so don't go and cut those out. Eventually, what I'm gonna do, because this is gonna sit right in here like this, is eventually I will go and cut right there. The only reason I haven't done that yet is because this here is actually gonna be our pickup tube, and I need to go and measure after I get the first flare in. This guy is our top hat, and kind of give you guys an overview here. Yes, I know this is crooked, I bent it on purpose. This is gonna be our return port. This is gonna be for our priming pump, so this is gonna be an 8AN feed, and this is gonna be the 12AN for the lift, and obviously this is where our factory connector goes. If you see right here, I also went through and punched out a little hole. We're gonna have a grounding strap to the top of the hanger. So this one right here is gonna be our 90-degree bulkhead fitting. This actually has an extended area, much like these. So basically you have two sets of threads. This top one here is gonna be for the jam nut, which is this guy. And then the bottom set of threads is actually gonna be where the line's gonna go and thread on. So we got return, priming pump, pressure, and then we got our pickup tube basically. We got this little union deal here. This is gonna be our check valve. This I went ahead and cut from a piece of like 4-foot stock I had laying around. We're gonna go through and flare both sides of this. I'll show you guys how to do that. This is gonna be our sleeve, and this right here is gonna be our B-nut, and this thing will just go plug onto the bottom of that, and basically you'll just have, if I can get this in the shot here, like one big pickup tube pretty much, probably like that. This right here is a part number for the new gasket. I think it was like 10 bucks from Toyota. If you guys have been watching my channel for a minute, you know I'm a huge fan of doing new gaskets. They just make sense. Coming over here to the pump side, this is the same Bosch 44 that had been running in the tank for a while now. It's still in really good shape. I went ahead and pulled the old filter sock off, so we have a new one here. The old one was kind of roach. And then coming over here, we got our bracket. This thing is gonna go and plop right in there like that. And then this is obviously gonna be underneath it and just kind of like hold it in right like yay, if that makes sense. Now, just so you guys know, basically what you're supposed to do on these is you're supposed to go and have 90-degree fitting here, Teflon ring here. You're supposed to put an O-ring right in here, and then that's gonna go and sit down on top of this, and then you put another O-ring on the other side, so it's underneath, and then another Teflon ring, and then the jam nut. The last time I did that, I actually wound up having it split, which is really annoying because then you wind up with all these fuel vapor smells everywhere, and it's just awkward. And I don't know, I didn't like it. So kind of a pro tip for you guys, this thing has worked for me. It's worked the last time I did the fuel system too, so I'm just gonna use it again. It's this fuel resistant RTV, little PermaShield stuff. I think this is like 10 or 12 bucks at the AutoZone or Advance or wherever I got it. But basically we're just gonna go and seal the top side here, as well as underneath, or like that, and then just put the Teflon rings, kind of use those for a pressure. That's held up really well for me on the last setup, so I'm just gonna do it again on this one. Now for the pickup tube, I already went ahead and flared the one side, as you can see here, and hopefully this can focus. There we go. One thing when you're doing these, whenever you cut them initially, you wind up with, there you go, you can see it there, just like this little bit of a high spot on there from the cutting tool. So what you got to do is deburr not only the inside, but also just run a file around the outside quick, just kind of like spin around there. Because if you don't and you wind up with a rough edge or anything like that, then you're going to wind up cracking the flare. I didn't do it on this one, thank God, but I mean, you could wind up cracking the flare, and this is going to create you a whole world of problems. So second thing, now that we got a flare on one side, we got to make sure to go through and slide the sleeve and the B-nut on before we flare the other one, because otherwise you won't be able to, well, put it on after. So let's go ahead and do that. Put this guy here. Boom. There we go. So now if you look in here, we got a nice flare. I already checked it with the gauge. It's all good to go. So now we just got to go and flare this spot down here after we go through and deburr it. So that way we have a nice smooth pickup tube for the fuel. And that is it. We got this side all nice and flared, so we can go and attach it to the top of the hanger. And then, I gotta say, for not having done this in like 10 years, I'm really happy with how this came out. So it looks super good. We got a couple of tool marks on here from where it's clamped down, but it's gonna be in the tank anyway, so not a big deal. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that attached. Look at how good this came out. That is some precision right there. That is awesome. Boom. So now we can go ahead and cut this off. Probably gonna slice it right about there. And then go ahead and attach our filter sock. All right, so that took the better part of way too long. That was about 6-ish hours that I think just went by in about the last 2, maybe 3 minutes. So it's about midnight right now. I'm gonna go ahead and shower and kind of bag it for night. We still need to go through and make the ground for the pump and then run that up to the top of the hanger, as well as pull the return off of the old hanger and then throw it on the new one. So other than that, the hanger's pretty much done. So tomorrow we're gonna go and be picking up fuel lines and assembly and things like that. And we are back. So I got the space heaters going today. If you guys hear a little bit of background noise, that is kind of sorry. But before we go busting up anything else and start making some lines, we are gonna be dropping this guy into here. I got a couple tips I want to show you guys. Should be helpful to you, hopefully. So let me throw it up on the tripod quick and we'll get to rolling. All right, so we got this thing propped up here. I've already gone through and drained most of the fuel out of here. There's still a little bit left that I just couldn't quite get out. I just kind of went and siphoned it off through to the Lexus. So now, one thing that I see a lot of guys do whenever they're trying to go and take this ring off of here is they'll either attack it with a hammer and a flathead and completely destroy the stupid thing, or they go and spend like $100 or $150 or whatever it is on a stupid little tool to go and take it off. I'm going to show you guys a tip that I use. I've had a lot of success with it. It doesn't destroy this thing, and it costs about $10. No, this is not an infomercial. It is a C-clamp. I have no idea how big this thing is as far as like overall dimension wise or anything like that. It's also super handy if you want to go and like reset brake piston caliper or brake pistons or anything like that on the calipers. Yeah, but basically for this guy, just go and get it set, kind of plop it down right like yay, and twist. In retrospect, maybe I should have left some of the fuel in here to kind of help counterbalance this thing. That would have been smart. And there you have it. I think I picked this thing up at Harbor Freight for like 10 bucks. It's way better doing the C-clamp method than sitting there trying to attack it with a flathead, just because that way it doesn't get all chewed up. And yeah, it didn't cost you 100 bucks either. So like I said, 10 bucks, C-clamp, widen it up a little bit, throw it on there, spin it around, easy peasy. We got this out of here. For any of you guys that have not seen the inside of a Mark IV Supra fuel tank, this is basically what all you're looking at. I do have a little bit of what appears to be a debris or something down in here. So I'm gonna clean that out before we put all this stuff in here. This is basically looking at it, the back is right here, and then toward the front that way. The pump is gonna sit down right over here. Then the pickup tube is gonna be sitting on that side there. Let me get this debris cleared out of here quick and then we'll be good.
One eternity later.
This right here is why it takes me so long to go and get stuff done. Or at least this is why it's taking me so long to go and shoot this video. I went through and started to go and clear out some of the stuff that was just kind of in the fuel basket. And I started looking around the rest of the tank. And here we are about 45 minutes later. And let me show you the stuff we got out of here though. This is kind of gross. Look at this. Like there's an actual full on like chunks of metal and stuff in here. So this is one. Here's a couple others. Like, that's just nasty though. However, if we look in here, this is way better. I don't know how well you guys can see that right now, but it is a lot cleaner. I know it's not perfect, but it's about 100 times better than it was, so I'll take that. Gonna go ahead and throw our return line up on its appropriate bulkhead fitting. All right, so now that we got that done, the best way to do this, because we actually do have our fuel level sender already on here, just kind of tilt it in at an angle, right like this. All right, we're gonna drop that down, then we're gonna twist it back the other way. There we go. I gotta say, that was actually about 100 times easier than doing the dual Bosch 44s. There we go, nice and tight. All right, so now that we got the stuff done with the fuel tank, we're gonna jump under the car, just kind of give you guys a rough up on how to go and measure the lines. You can do this a couple different ways. Some people like to do it with string. Other people, like myself, I usually like to go and use some scrap wire that I laying around, just kind of run it, and then just because it, I don't know, it's easier. It's easier to manipulate, and it's still kind of rigid, so I mean, it still goes and stays up there. And you can go and tape it to like bulkheads and things like that if you're using wire, whereas if you're using hose like we're doing today, then we cannot do that. All right, so we got this big old length of line that's actually poking way up out there. All right, but probably turn on the night vision here. There we go. You can see we're running it up and over the subframe. And this right up here, I'm gonna need to figure out a way to go and attach it. There we go. Basically to the bottom of the trunk bit right here, just because I don't want it to go hitting an axle or anything like that. And then it's gonna go and pop out right over here by our merge block. So Fitting will probably be right about there. I'm gonna need to go and create some additional slack up in here. So I'm gonna put you guys down for a minute so I can go and get this thing the rest of the way measured, and then I will show you guys how to go about cutting this properly so you don't want to fisheye in the line, and then how to go and run your fittings and stuff on it too, all right? All right, we got our line pulled out and measured here. If you look right here, we're gonna be cutting right down the middle of this thing. And part of the reason we taped it is because the little braids and stuff in here tend to go and flare out whenever you cut it. So if you go and tape it down, it makes it a lot easier. I'll show you guys a little bit more on that here in a second. One thing, when you're measuring this stuff out, I strongly recommend giving yourself about another 2, maybe 3 inches on the end of the cut, all right? Specifically because if you go to put your fitting on the end of this, and then you go and like mess up this side, or it gets fisheyed when you're cutting it or something like that, then you have that extra 2 to 3 inches of leeway to kind of play with. And then worst case, you want to go and cut it down a little bit before you install the fitting on the other side. That way, if nothing else, you don't wind up wasting, 4, 5, 6 feet of tubing because you cut it 3 inches too short, 4 inches too short, mess up putting a fitting on, something like that. First thing, like I said, if you look here, we're gonna be cutting right here on this line, so right in the middle of the tape. And again, part of that's just to go and keep the braiding and everything in here. When you're cutting Teflon line specifically, the best thing you can do is either A, use a cutting wheel, which I kind of don't recommend, or B, you can go through and cut it with like a hacksaw. I'm gonna be using the hacksaw method. I know it seems a little ridiculous. You do wind up with, getting a little bit of particulate in the line that you're gonna have to go and clear out of there. The reason I like doing the hacksaw method instead of doing the cutting wheel is just because if you got too much speed on a cutting wheel, you can actually go and melt the Teflon. So there's that. If you use the cutters, you're guaranteed to go and fisheye the line. I'll show you what I mean. All right, this right here is some 8 tubing that I picked up from my supply guy. So if you look right here, these are the 2 ends of the line. This one definitely got garbled up. It's not straight at all. It's super crooked. You got some Teflon hanging off here. I'm gonna have to go through and clean this up and just make that look a little bit better. This one though, if that'll focus, that'd be great. All right, well you can see here it's oval shape. The reason it's oval shape is because they use some of those cutters, which kind of sucks because whenever you do that, you get that oval shape right there. It usually goes and comes down to about here. So basically you wind up ruining about an inch or so of the tubing. Don't use cutters. If you're using a cutting wheel, be careful. But yeah, let me show you how I do this. All right, don't mind this hodgepodge of tools behind me. I'm just trying to give you guys the best angle possible here. Whenever you're doing this, it's always good to go and use a new blade, just because sometimes they want to get warped, and if you have a chipped tooth or anything like that on the existing blade, you're not gonna be able to cut through this well. You're gonna wind up with like little metal flary bits all over the place. Like it's not gonna be very good. So use a new blade when you can. All right, so a couple things too when you're labeling the line. If you look right here, you really can't read it too much, kind of rubbed off a little bit, but it's a spare on this side. And then we actually got a line right here on this side. The reason I labeled it is just because these two sides specifically, there's only about 6 feet of tubing and they're pretty equal length. So that way you know exactly which one you're supposed to be working with and you know not to put the fitting on the wrong one. So this is gonna be our post cut. Let's go ahead and install the fitting on this one here, just so you guys can see what all that's like. All right guys, so the fittings that we're gonna be using with our braided Teflon line are gonna be 3-piece, okay? So they'll look like this and kind of like the vibrant fittings and stuff like that whenever you get them. But if you go and pull this little sleeve off, I call it a sleeve, I don't know what it's actually called. Then you have this little insert piece, okay? So the very first thing we're gonna do with our line here is gonna be pulling off the tape, and then we're also gonna go peeling back some of the rubber coating that's on it. Is because if you try to slide this little collar piece on here with the rubber on it, you can do it, but it's not fun, not at all. It's actually kind of a pain in the butt. So if you go and peel back just a little bit of the rubber stuff, it makes it a lot easier. And then you can actually go and pull back the braids and stuff in here too, which we'll need to do here in a minute. All right, now that we've finally got all of the insulation off around here, first thing we're gonna do is put our little sleeve on here, slide that guy down a bit, and then we're gonna come through here and separate ever so slightly. You have the Teflon on the inside here, and then you got the steel braid that goes around the outside. We're gonna go and separate those two a little bit so you have kind of a nice little V shape in between the two of them. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can go and slide this guy down in here right like that before we go and put in the actual main piece. So hopefully you guys can kind of see this. There's a little bit of separation right here. It'd be a lot better if the camera would focus, that'd be great. And basically what we're gonna do now is take this little brass inlet here. If you can see inside this, there's a couple of ridges. All right, we're actually gonna wanna go and put it up at least past the first one. I like to go and try to get it up past the second one, if at all possible. All right, now that we got that up in there, and the Teflon is gonna be flush with the top of the brass, take a lubricant of your choice. And then just slide this guy right on down into the Teflon. Now it's like this. That's about as much as I'm gonna be able to get it hand tight, but I'm gonna go and grab a couple of wrenches and get that tightened down the rest of the way. And there you have it. Yes, I did wind up cutting a little bit too much insulation off this, but that's not a big deal. So I went ahead and cut our 8A in for the priming pump and everything too. Just kind of give you guys a little bit of a pro tip on here as well. Whenever you are cutting two lines that are basically going to the same spot, you can use one of them, whichever one you cut first, as kind of a template. Since this one is gonna have to angle a little bit farther out on the hanger side, I went ahead and made it a couple inches longer. So we're gonna go ahead and throw these in the car just to kind of see how much, if any, excess room I have once we go and put the tank and everything like that back up in there too. Stay tuned. All right, guys, we have officially completed the first two fuel lines out of 10. As promised, I'm not gonna go and show you guys all 10 of these. That'd be super redundant. The concept is gonna be the same. The main thing is just measuring them, giving yourself a couple extra inches. The 8AN priming pump was good to go. The one for the actual pickup tube for the mechanical, we did have to go and cut down about 3-ish inches. So it's a good thing we gave ourselves a little bit of extra room on that one just because we did end up needing it. Kind of a couple of lessons learned, I guess, for you guys. I know Powerhouse goes and sells a complete kit for the Supra, for the mechanical fuel pump and all that stuff. So I actually went through and priced this thing out on my phone, and if you look here, hopefully that can focus. For basically everything that we did, it was gonna come to a total of a little over $5,000. Now, that obviously includes the mechanical bracket, all the lines, your fuel filters. It's gonna include a set of injectors that I did in that one. I did IDX 1050s. So overall, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely something to be said for having somebody else go out and do the R&D. This obviously would have been done a lot faster. I wouldn't have spent the last 2 days making lines and doing up brackets and all that other stuff, right? It would have just been like a drop-in, ready-to-roll assembly. I could have had it done in probably a quarter of the time. So I think overall, total, by the time I get done doing the rest of these lines, I'm gonna have close to 20-ish hours in all the fab work. I'm slow. Other people can do it way faster. I'm slow. So the Powerhouse kit is about $5 grand. We wound up doing this thing. I am about $700 into the lines. The bracket from Sleeper Designs for the pump was, honestly, I don't remember. I want to say it was around 600. I also think I bought something else in there too, which probably bumped the price up a little bit, but we'll just say 600 because I know that's about what the PHR one is, right? So if we're at 700 for lines, 600 for the bracket, 600 again for the pump, that's what, $1,900 for the IDX 1050s. Say that's another $1,000. So we're at, if we go from the $5,000 PHR kit and then we factor in the Sleeper Designs bracket for about $600, the fuel pump for another $600, the lines and everything for about $700, we're going to be looking at $1,900 right there, plus the IDX 1050s. So you're looking at another $1,000 right there. So we're at about $2,900 right now. All in all, if you go from $5,000 to just say it costs $3 grand for everything else we got here, that's still a $2,000 savings. Now, yes, I could have gotten it done a lot faster, but kind of the way I look at it, if you've watched any of my previous videos, especially the one where I'm talking about like how much does it cost to go and build a 1,000 horsepower Supra, you know that I like to go and find deals and I like to do stuff cheaply and put labor and stuff into it, right? I mean, my hands show it. I got, nice little blisters and stuff like that, cuts all up on my hands. So I'm not averse to go and putting in some sweat equity into this thing to kind of go save a little bit of money, right? So it's a $2,000 savings. Then it's going to cost me, what, probably $200-300 to go and rent a U-Haul, another $1,000 to have Larry go and tune it, plus fuel. So that's $1,500. I'm basically coming out I can do the whole fuel system and get the car tuned for about $500 less than what the PHR kit is just by itself. So that said, I definitely love, respect, and appreciate those guys. I got a lot of PHR parts on my car already, so obviously it's a great company. I'm a huge supporter. They're awesome. The next fuel line I'm going to do is going to be the return from the flex fuel sensor all the way to the back of the tank. Once I have that one done, because that's the last one on the hanger, I'll be able to go and throw the tank back up. That's what I'll be doing. Got another probably 2-3 hours at least of measuring cuttings, slicing my fingers open with the steel braids on the lines, and all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. The process is going to be exactly the same for the other 8 lines, so I'm going to go ahead and get back to work. If you guys have any questions, comments, ideas, anything like that, definitely leave me a comment in the section below. I'd really appreciate it. If you do like this video, be sure to subscribe. There's going to be a lot more coming like it. I know I got at least another 2 planned, and then we got to go and get the car tuned and everything like that too. So I will see y'all very soon in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you next time.